The death of Trooper Alexander Nichols was witnessed by Lieutenant Edwin T. Lean of B Squadron, South Australian Imperial Bushman, who had the unenviable duty of writing to the boy's father. Letter, dated 25th of July 1900. My dear sir, I regret sincerely the occasion of this letter, but as the officer commanding the troop to which your late son, A.W. Nichols, belonged, I felt it to be my duty to write you the particulars of his death. Yesterday morning our squadron was sent with Kitchener's horse at a gallop hot on the track of the tail end of the Boer convoy we'd been pursuing for the last 10 days, and we were successful in capturing 5 wagons and 18 prisoners. The Boers, however, made a determined effort to cut us off and outflank us, so that my troop was told off to hold them in check until the wagons, etc., had retired to a safe distance. This we accomplished, but in our retirement, amidst a tornado of bullets, Trooper Tothill was shot, and your boy, with 3 others, endeavoured to carry him to shelter behind a mud hut about 200 yards away. But in doing so, your brave boy lost his life, and 2 of the other 3 were seriously wounded, while Tothill received 2 more wounds, one of which caused his death. Your boy has been under my notice ever since he joined, and in all the fighting we have gone through he was one of the bravest of a brave lot of lads, and never flinched in the hottest fire, while his conduct under ordinary discipline was exemplary in every way. His body was brought in by ambulance, and Dr. Gibson handed me his watch and chain, field glass, photo wallet, and housewife, and if I am spared to return to South Australia, I will bring them with me, or I meet a similar fate. I will leave directions so they may be forwarded to you. He's buried in the cemetery at Vredefort with the comrade for whom he gave his life and 2 others who were killed on the same occasion. I hope and trust it will be some consolation to his family that your boy was loved by all of us, and we mourn him, but our grief is mitigated with pride, for he died in the death of a hero. The excellent work done by the New South Wales Medical Corps in the battle was recorded by the special correspondent of the Sydney Morning Herald. Quote, on the 22nd of July we reached Renoster, only to find that our will-o'-the-wisp De Wet had held up a train laden with provisions the night before, had taken the provisions and burnt the train. On the 23rd we were off again to the west and travelled about 10 or 12 miles. Every home we came to was deserted and desolate. The cornfields were laying fallow and the cattle had disappeared. Only a few natives evidenced the fact the country was inhabited. Next day we tracked on towards Vredefort and over rolling down country towards a high range of wooded hills south of the Vaal. About noon we came upon the pretty little town of Vredefort, nestling in the folds of the downs, and here we learned that De Wet had passed through the town the day before we arrived and had gone on to the mountains at the Vaal. Off we started after him, and when about 3 miles from town the mountain infantry came up with him near a farm with the euphonious name of Stinkhout Boer. As they advanced, the enemy opened a Mauser and pom-pom fire, which our men returned. The din lasted for about half an hour, when the order was given to withdraw and hold the hills by the town. Legg's Corps, consisting of the 2nd Mounted Infantry, Kitchener's Horse, and Imperial Bushmen, was sent forward to occupy Mackenzie's farm, and a small hill running at an obtuse angle from the main chain. Here they found several Boers in bed with their clothes on, and some little distance off were 6 wagons laden with wheat, part of the Boer convoy. Our men that turned the wagons back and making the Boer prisoners were returning in the direction of the main body of troops when Boer reinforcements came up in an attempt to recapture the wagons, in which they were unsuccessful. Our casualties on this occasion were 29 men and 5 officers, while the Boers suffered heavily, as we learned afterwards. Lieutenant Howes, surgeon to the 2nd Mounted Infantry and a member of the New South Wales Army Medical Corps, was out in the thick of the fighting, and seeing a trumpeter fall, ran out to shelter in a hail of bullets, dressed the lad's wounds, and raising him to his knees, lifted him up and carried the boy out of fire, thus saving his life. A recommendation for the VC was forwarded by General Ridley and Broadwood. Lieutenant House's horse was shot dead while his master was helping the wounded. Captain Roth of the New South Wales Army Medical Corps went out with the ambulances and there soon began to pour into the hospital, hastily improvised out of the schoolroom by Captain Perkins, patients suffering with wounds of various severity. Captain Roth brought in a Boer wounded in the foot and knee by a pom-pom shell and by a bullet through the spine. Of all the seriously wounded patients, only one died. A few days subsequently, a Boer wounded through the spine was sent in by De Vet's doctor asking for operative treatment, which was carried out by Captain Perkins. The man has now returned to his home. The mounted troops were still camped about 2 miles outside Vredefort and were joined by the field hospital and ambulances. A parade of the AMC men was ordered and the general addressed them, expressing his appreciation of the good work down in the hospital, and stating it was his intention to write a strong letter to Lord Roberts, bringing on his notice the work done by the New South Wales Army Medical Corps in the hospital at Vredefort. While the mounted troops remained here, troops began to arrive, and Lord Methuen was... Boy, it's a long time since we've done this. But we're in Casterton, folks. As far west as I've been in probably 20 years. Used to pass through Casterton on the way to Mount Gambier. So I think that way is the South Australian border. It's probably only another 20 kilometres to South Australia. Yeah, I used to fly through here on the way to Gambier. So we're here for a Boer War monument, and I think I can see it already. I wonder if it's been moved here. It's not the big one. The big one would be World War One and or Two. Maybe that little skinny one at the behind it. Fantastic, eh? So yeah, I've done a lot of driving. I've done over 300 kilometres. I left at 9. It's now 20 past 2. That's okay. Decided to go to Hamilton first, do Stawell on the way back tomorrow, because of the fact that the Hamilton Society, Historical Society, is open today. It's not open tomorrow. Right. This is a beauty, isn't it? Oh, look at that. The Victorian mounted rifles. It's beautiful. I wonder if it was once upon a time standing in the main part of Casterton and moved up here. It looks like it had a fountain attached. And they've often had the fountain taken away. There's a, like Neptune. Fantastic, isn't it, eh? Look at that. Casterton. Now, I'm not sure what the debt of HC means. Of H Company, okay. The Casterton detachment of H Company. Ah, look at that. We know now, don't we? Rensburg. We've been to Rensburg. And Stock may have been killed in the action at Pink Hills. But that's the Northern Cape. Yeah, I reckon it is. That date looks familiar with Major Eddie. These beautiful little angels. Quite perky little breasts. Nothing here. And Sealy at Bloemfontein. Well, they've spelt it wrong, haven't they? Bloemfontein, they've written it. He would have died of fever, most likely. Oh, I love it, eh? I love it. I love it a lot. It's a beauty. Cast iron. So I'll read out a bit about this monument. The monument commemorates Casterton District soldiers who died in service or were killed in action during the South African Boer War. The unveiling in honour of Private T. Stock, who was killed in action, and Private Sealy, who died of enteric fever, took place on Friday the 29th of May 1903. The H Company mounted rifles took part in a torchlight procession headed by a band. The President of the Shire, addressed the people, and the memorial was unveiled by Mrs. Seeley. A candelabra surmounting the memorial was lit by Miss Stock. A memorial lamppost with suitable inscription on the basement is to be erected in memory of the Casterton district soldiers who fell in the Boer War. The memorial has been purchased for some time, but a fitting opportunity was waited for to make a military display on the occasion of the unveiling. It has been decided to unveil the memorial on Friday next, when there will be a grand parade of mounted troops and military manoeuvres on the Casterton agricultural showgrounds. There will also be sports and good prizes to be competed for. In the evening there will be a grand torchlight procession when the ceremony of unveiling and lighting the lamp will take place. Subsequently there will be a military ball in the Mechanics Institute. The Hamilton Spectator, Victoria, 26th of May 1903.
Well worth stopping. Well worth the trip out here. How high it is. I reckon this has been added later. There would have been a fountain around the base, maybe. Well, we've got to say goodbye to this guy. It really means so much more to me, having been to South Africa now and knowing Rensburg and Bloemfontein. It just means so much more seeing this monument now. It's so old. It's so lonely here. So neglected compared to this big one here for the men of the World Wars. As I said, I think it was moved here. I don't believe that it was always positioned up here. Have a quick look through Casterton. If there's any op shops or anything, I might have a quick look, but I want to get back to Hamilton because there's 3 things there, or maybe even 4 actually. There's 4 things I think in Hamilton we need to investigate. But boy, what a long way to go. All the way from here across to lose your life in Rensburg. Actually, Rensburg isn't even a... do you remember when I asked Cornell at the farm, do you know Rensburg? She shook her head. Rensburg was a railway siding. Tony Horn, my tour guide, he didn't know Rensburg. And I kept saying, well, you know, I've been to a number of monuments where Australians were killed at the Battle of Rensburg. Remember? Can't remember the name again. There's one monument I went to where they specified Rensburg. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I've done quite a lot of these monuments now. But anyway, yeah. And actually, of interest, Tony sent me, that's my tour guide, he sent me an old map just a couple of days ago and just touched base with me. The map shows Slingerfontein, where we went to West Australian Hill, but it also shows the railway siding of Rensburg. We couldn't get there now. We went to Arundel. Yeah, we went to Arundel, which was a railway siding where they had their headquarters. The British had their headquarters. But yeah, we never got to Rensburg, and it seems to be just a district or a town, or not a town, just a siding that's forgotten now. It's not named, it's not used anymore, and it's forgotten even by the locals. All right, so about what, just over half an hour back to Hamilton. Let's have a quick look around this funny little town. I remember I was always really glad to get here because it meant that Mount Gambier wasn't very far away. I mean, in those days I was a shocking drink driver. I'd be into the cans by now, but I don't do that anymore. So alright, so we can tick that off our list, another Boer War monument, and I really liked that one. It was really nice. Oh, by the way, Casterton, home of the kelpie. There's a kelpie on top of a sheep there, a statue. But if you don't know, kelpies are a really active they're an active sheepdog. We've got one living next door to us. They will chase things. They're notorious at chasing bloody chickens and all that. If you've got a kelpie and you happen to own chickens, it's really hard to stop them chasing things. But they're great dogs, yeah. Kelpies are great dogs. So they come from Casterton. Didn't know that.